It's a good story there, or an interesting story if you have any interest in starting your own business, and in particular in franchising. There's a story there reported in the Irish Times today, probably in the other papers as well, to do with a High Court injunction, High Court case, basically involving Eddie Rockets. Eddie Rockets have been granted a temporary order aimed at restraining transfer of two franchises to a rival. So Eddie Rockets claimed that the Charlestown Shopping Centre and Clare Hall franchises were transferred to owner and operator of rival restaurants in flagrant and fundamental breaches of agreements. It's very, very important that if you're considering getting a franchise, buying a franchise, that the franchise agreement at the outset, you need to understand that the franchise agreement at the outset will be drafted very much in favour of the franchisor. And one of the provisions in the franchise agreement you'll often see is, if you want to transfer your franchise, you must first offer it to the franchisor. In other words, you can't just sell it to anybody you like. You must transfer it or offer it first to the franchisor. The Eddie Rockets diner chain secured temporary High Court injunction restraining the transfer of two of its franchises to the owner of a rival restaurant business. And the action then relates to the alleged breaches of agreements, including ones for franchise holders to sell Dublin franchises at Charlestown Shopping Centre, in Finglas and in Clare Hall to Eddie Rockets. And that's absolutely key. Eddie Rockets claimed that what amounts to a flagrant and fundamental breach of the sale and franchise agreements, the two franchises have been transferred to the owner and operator of rival restaurants. Eddie Rockets and the related Rockets Franchising have brought proceedings against Ziggy Investments Limited, Lisa Marie Deegan, Jacinta Teagan and Brian Dunn. Ziggy Investments holds the two franchises issued by the plaintiffs in 2020. The Deegans are alleged to be the shareholders and directors of Ziggy Investments. The court heard Mr Dunn as a former franchise holder of Eddie Rockets. He's alleged to have acquired Ziggy Investments. It's also claimed that he operates businesses in competition to the plaintiffs, and the plaintiffs secured a temporary injunction preventing the defendants from breaching the terms of the various alleged agreements regarding the Charlestown and Clare Hall franchises. And again, these are agreements that will be absolutely bog standard. But if you're going to buy a franchise, you need to be absolutely aware that the agreements can be quite restrictive. The courts also made orders restraining Mr Dunn from using or interfering with the plaintiff's intellectual property. So the agreements were in place for Eddie Rockets to buy the franchises from Ziggy Investments. So Eddie Rockets, as far as they were concerned, had a deal to buy the franchise from Ziggy Investments. Those agreements were advanced but not complete after his clients were informed earlier this month that Ziggy Investments had been sold to another party. To his clients' surprise, they received a subsequent phone call from Mr Dunn informing them that he was taking over and would operate the two franchises. This was obviously a surprise to Eddie Rockets. So the agreements do not allow Mr Dunn to acquire the two Eddie Rockets franchises, counsel said. He said the terms of Eddie Rockets franchise agreements are rigorous and restrain holders from transferring them to other parties without the plaintiff's prior consent, and that's key here. Any franchise agreement is going to be drafted in such a way that you will need the prior consent of the franchisor if you want to sell your franchise. And it may well be the case that you are obliged to offer firstly the franchise to the franchisor before you transfer to anybody else. Holders must also undergo training courses, can operate or own rival businesses. The counsel said his clients also have concerns about the use of their confidential information and intellectual property rights. And counsel said his clients sought but have not received undertakings from the defendants to cease operating the franchises. The orders were granted on an ex parte basis, so that means that only one party was represented, and then the case will return later this week. Bottom line is, if you're going to start up your own business, one of the best ways from the point of view of avoiding failure is to buy a franchise. But you need to be aware that a franchise does involve an agreement, a legally binding agreement, and they are generally fairly vigorous and fairly rigorous in favour of the franchisor, and that's what you are signing up for. So as long as you're aware of that at the outset, that's fine, but you should be getting legal advice before you sign any franchise agreement. Franchises, are a good way to go in terms of starting your own business, and they have tried and tested formulas, tried and tested operation systems, tried and tested marketing and branding and so on and so forth. But they do, understandably, the franchisors do jealously guard their intellectual property and their brand and so on. And obviously they have to be concerned about a franchise being sold to somebody who may not be suitable. Anyway, I hope you find the video useful. If you do, you might give it a thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel. You may also be interested in watching this video. Thanks a lot.